I haven't done a series in quite a while, and I think it's about time, which is actually perfect because a topic that comes up a lot with many of my clients is around relationships. Romantic relationships, friendships, family, coworkers, all kinds of relationships. And recently, one of my clients was really struggling with a relationship, and she brought up a really fascinating metaphor that has stuck with me, and I thought I'd share it with you all. Um, I am expanding on it here a bit to give you all a little bit of a challenge, like I always do. But so in the midst of this session, my client said, "The bones are there, so that feels good." I was intrigued. So, of course, I dug into that a bit further and I asked, what do the bones represent? Where do the tendons come into play? The muscles, the skin? And we explored this metaphor for a bit, and she came to the conclusion that if the bones are still intact, it's still worth working on because she felt the other things would fall into place once the structure is solid. And I loved this metaphor because there's so many layers to it, but it all comes back to the bones of the relationship. And the bones for each person are going to be different, right? So one person's bones might be trust and intimacy and adventure, while someone else's bones might be honesty and fun and laughter, let's say. And as I've kind of continued to consider this metaphor, I've realized that my bones are the same no matter what relationship I look at, whether it's family or a friend or a romantic partner, the bones are the same. Now, some of you might say, hold up, Brittany. I want to be having sex with my romantic partner, but that's not something I want to be doing with my family and friends, right? What I would argue is that sex is the skin, which we'll actually get to in a few weeks. But the deeper value there, the bone in that, is intimacy, which I'm guessing you probably would want to a certain degree in any of your relationships. So the bone is the core value in the relationship. But how that value manifests itself in your different relationships will vary. That's where the tendons and the muscles and the skin come into play. And we'll tackle each of those in the coming weeks. But for now, I want you to consider what your bones are. What do you hold to the highest value in any relationship? Now, in order to get to the core value across all relationships, you can do this in one of two ways. Whichever way is more useful to you. There's no right or wrong way. You can either make a list for each relationship in your life and then look for common themes across all these relationships, or you can remove the person from the equation, remove the person from the consideration, and simply consider what you value most in relationships, no matter their form. Now, I do want to be clear. This isn't a page-long list of all the things you want in a relationship. This is usually 3 to 5 things at most that you hold as most important. And usually they're the root things. So if you've written out a long list, look for what are those common themes in that long list. What's the core of this? So for example, with the example that I gave earlier, sex and intimacy. Sex is a form of intimacy. So intimacy is the deeper one there. That's the deeper place. That's the potential bone, possibly. So if you don't have these things, even just one of them, the relationship was likely not going to work out. Those are the values that we're after. And we'll talk about the other components of relationships in the coming week, the tendons, the muscles, and the skin. So get your list together, and I'll see you all next week. Have a great weekend.